Emil, it's Emil Guillermo. Emil, I'm up to you. How are you? Here I am. I'm out of my closet. Is that a surprise? I'm out of my closet. If you've just caught us for the first time, usually I'm in my gong closet, but now I'm in my gong ante room. I don't know. It's more room. I can like move. Maybe there's flight if I flap my arms enough. Anyway, how are you? Welcome to our Monday show. This is show number 145. If you're wondering, and how you doing? Mabuhay, as they say. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. I had a good weekend. I did that Harvard thing, and it was so exhilarating to be able to tell a story about Filipinos and Asian Americans at the Unity conference that combined all the different people of color organizations, alumni organizations at Harvard. And look, I mention it not to like lord over this idea that, oh yeah, I went to Harvard and you didn't. No, that's not the idea. The idea is that we've got to work together. We haven't worked together. I mean, this was the first time the alumni people of color at that august institution came together, and there was some real numbers. There was like, maybe over 2,000 registrants. And what it suggests to me is we're moving along in the right direction in terms of becoming more inclusive. Look, no one mistakes Harvard for being a public school. It's not a public school, but it's it's coming along where more, not elitists, not rich people, not the 1%, but more people who are normal. As I like to say, I am exceptionally normal, right? Of the member of the 99%. There are more people in that group that, more than 50%, I believe, at Harvard, the students who are accepted require financial aid. And I was early on where people were giving money to say, if we want you, we're going to allow you to come. We're going to let you come to our school if you choose. That's the only reason why I went there, right? Father, a fry cook, family on SSI. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to Harvard? No, I was going to go. I was prepared to go to City College or San Francisco State if that was in the cards, if that was where I could go. But I was lucky that I had an opportunity. So I could not have imagined that there would be that many people of color attending Harvard, alums. And now here we are, student body 25% Asian. And so we're going to talk about that another day this week. I just wanted to share with you. I had a good time there at Harvard. I want to talk about it when I can say share a clip of the story that I did. They haven't put it out yet, and I want to be able to say, hey, this is what I did, this is what I said, here, go to here. But in general, I just want to say it was a good event because it showed that the university is changing and the university wants to do better. Because when I went to Harvard, it practically just threw you out there and said, go. There was no counseling. They didn't even know what a Filipino was. They said, well, do we put you in with the blacks or do we put you in with the Asians? Because you're not like it. They really were stumbling on that. Filipinos and Vietnamese, you guys are more like the black experience. Unlike the Asians who, they weren't known as the model minority then, but a lot of them came from academic backgrounds, from the from the homeland, right, to come to study. In fact, when I was there, I remember meeting with a bunch of guys from New York, and Their parents were either academics who came from China or from Asia, but there are very few rank and file, just regular Asian Americans, kids who grew up in Chinatown, kids who grew up in, the urban inner city. So over the years, that's changed. The school is now 25% Asian American, which is really, unbelievable. I mean, when I went there maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I saw a banh mi truck, right? Selling Vietnamese sandwiches from a truck. They didn't have that when I was there. Anyway, so I had a good weekend. We were only online, which is too bad. I would have loved to have gone to Boston, but no, I stayed here. Actually, it would have been great. I could have gone there, and then maybe I could have finagled a ticket to go to the Tonys, because I'm going to talk about the Tonys today. Definitely talking about the Tonys today. Here on show number 145, Emil Amok's Takeout, subtitled, What Does an Asian American Think? An acronym, WDAAT. What that? What does an Asian American? Because no one knows. They don't ask us. And I'm just saying, hey, I'll tell you what we think about some things. Here's some things. We'll fill the void. Anyway, that's why we're here. We're here two to whenever, Monday through Friday, live. We're here live for the very same reason the Tonys last night were live, right? Well, actually, I saw the Tonys recorded, but they were live. Sometimes in the affiliate out here where I live, they'll play it live, so you get to see it at 4 p.m. Pacific, and you get to see, wow, yeah, I'm like time shifting here, and then I can do something else at 7 o'clock Pacific, because the Tonys are already over by time that we're seeing the recording. But I saw it. I saw it last night, and I thought it was great because even the New York Times is saying the biggest winner, a revived Broadway, right? Because that was the thing. Hey, we're celebrating the fact that Broadway's back. People are alive. People are wearing masks. People are vaxxed up. No, I just I thought it was great. I thought it was a great political statement about how people can engage in public, maybe safely. It's still not clear exactly how safe. Because those singers, they're belting out their plosives, and it's all in the air. How safe is that unless you're masked and unless you're distanced and vaccinated? So let's hope it's all good. I'm glad to see Broadway back. And so I wrote a piece on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund website. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Talk about that, and also talk about this book. This is the book for the that's getting launched officially this week, Bigotry on Broadway. I am really happy. Look, there's me. See, look. And I even have my headphones on because I just don't go anywhere without them, really. It's that Princess Leia look. You just get addicted to it. So my essay was called Neither Cockeyed Nor an Optimist about South Pacific. So I write about South Pacific here because Bigotry on Broadway is kind of like an anthology put together by Ishmael Reed, the noted author, writer, critic, his wife, Carla Blank. They put this together because Ishmael was thinking about one day about his work, just picking apart Lin-Manuel Miranda and Hamilton. And he said, how far does this go? How deep does the bigotry on Broadway go? And so he goes way back, 50, 60 years. He brought together some public thinkers like myself, academics, critics, to talk about things like West Side Story, South Pacific, Flower Drum Song, Irving Berlin, on and on and on. We talk about the Great American Songbook. It's all here. And it officially, you can get this book on Amazon. now if you care. But the book launch is on Wednesday. And the book launch is just on Facebook. If you go to my emilguillermo.media page, we talk about, how you can sign up and attend the live stream event. But it's essentially the writers getting together, talking about these plays and musicals and what they mean. The back cover, the back blurb says, "How do intellectuals and scholars from minorities feel about the portrayal of ethnic groups on Broadway? How do we know? Few have the power to rate the good shows and the flops and be heard. The American Critical Fraternity as an exclusive club." Now, I was a part of, say, the local fraternity of reviewers at one point in the 80s in San Francisco. And I was really pleased to be able to like weigh in and say this. But, the problem back in the 80s is the material was not, it was really old school. It really was South Pacific and Jerry Herman, who incidentally, man, did you see the on the memorial? Every award show has a memorial section. All the people who died, all the people we lost in the theater last year. It's like incredible. And Jerry Herman was one of them. And I just remember when I first in 1984, I was fairly young and was not familiar with all of Jerry Herman's tunes. Little did I know that they were all the biggest hits on Broadway. I mean, if you were a show tunes guy, I was really embarrassed because I panned the show Jerry's Girls. But what do I know? I wanted something hipper. So I can relate to the people now who look at Broadway and say, yeah, Hamilton, cool. Yeah, hip hop. Of course, now I'm older and I'm more traditional. But, and I've got a problem with the hip hop. So anyway, this book deals with shows like Oklahoma. Okay, 12 minutes in. 12 minutes in, we have the digital divide in action telling me, Emil, when you're going to poke fun at Broadway, we're going to like yank your Wi Fi. They'll do that sometimes. Anyway, West Side Story, Hamilton, Book of Mormon. So all this discussed here. Bigotry on Broadway. Check out emilguillermo.media on Facebook. There's an invite. Come to the launch on Wednesday. And then also, by the way, the Tonys. Did you see Cheetah Rivera? She looked pretty good, but the significance is that on that night, she was celebrating her 64th year as Anita in West Side Story, which is kind of significant. And it flows into what we're going to talk about with the Tonys, because if there was anything about the Tonys that you can say is that there was one theme, and the theme was diversity, right? The theme was definitely diversity. It was everywhere. Whenever there was a duet, it was like black and white. But that was a problem. It was like almost too black and white. Occasionally, something brown would sneak in. I mean, when the play The Inheritance won, Matthew Lopez was the first Latino playwright to win the Tony, which is pretty incredible, right? And it actually started in London. He was a fan of E.M. Forster's novel Howard's End, and he wanted to write about a thing about how it might feel post AIDS to celebrate your gay life. And he wanted to he was inspired by Forster, Matthew Lopez. But while he identified LGBTQ, the real identity was as Latinx. And he gave us a mini TED talk about the underrepresentation of Latinx writers, going back to Miguel Pinheiro, Short Eyes, and saying, look, those are the writers who inspired me. Oh, he was also inspired by Terrence McNally, who coincidentally he was on the in memoriam section too. Passed away last year. Anyway, so the theme: blacks excluded, brown excluded, and they were included in the Tony. But Asian Americans, I saw BD Wong as a presenter. I think I missed Lea Salonga, and I apologize as a fellow Filipino. I apologize to Lea Salonga for missing her mini star turn on the Tonys. But BD Wong, couldn't miss BD Wong. He came out. Here's the thing about BD. He's funny when he has to be funny and bold when he has to be bold. And he just is, he's got this statue. He's now, to me, when I think of Broadway, when I think of the American theater and I think of Asian Americans, there are just two people I think of, right? Henry David Wong, right? And where was he? I didn't see him anywhere. The great prolific Henry David Wong. He just wasn't, I am not there. Not at the Tonys last night. But thank goodness. Well, before I get to BD, the only one that I saw who was actually on stage doing something theatrical was there was a guy who was in Jagged Little Pill, one of the students, right, who had a line. He said, someone said, "Oh, it's ironic." And he said, "That's actually not ironic." That was his line. And he got probably paid hands. I'm telling you, folks, I paid my bill. I paid my bill. The second digital divide eruption, you see the urgency of that infrastructure bill this week. They're going to vote on it, not just on the hard stuff, but also the soft infrastructure. The $1 trillion one as opposed to just the multi-million dollar one. They can want it all together, but it's all needed. And the fact that this feed has cut out twice. Hey, I'm in modern California, but I'm in the part where I'm not on the coast. I'm inland where they just kind of forget. Oh yeah, you guys are part of the state. Oh yeah, we'll get to you. I'm just telling you. The more I cut out, the more instructive it is of our current infrastructure needs in terms of the digital divide. Okay, so back to BD Wong, right? That kid who was in the Jagged Little Pill number they did, he said, "That's actually not ironic." And he got a big laugh. And as a performer, I know, oh man, made his day. And hopefully he got an extra after bump up because he had a line, had a speaking role. But the Tony moment for me was seeing BD Wong present. I saw him first on in M Butterfly, David Henry Wong's M Butterfly. I forget what year it was, but I remember it was one of those trips to New York. I said, "Okay, what am I going to do? I got to M Butterfly. I'm going to see him." But it was an impulse thing, and it was great. I never forget it. I think Jonathan Pryce was playing opposite BD. Anyway, performance so great. He's the only actor in Broadway history to receive a Tony or to receive a Tony, a Drama Desk Award, an Outer Critics Award, a Clarence Derwent Award, a Theater World Award, and an Emil Guillermo Theater Award. Hey, where did that come in? That's not in his bio. But he did win that. For me, I just gave it to him. Historical. I'm just telling you, when I see BD Wong, he has this stately presence now. You know, he's not like the kid from Lincoln High in San Francisco who went to Broadway and became a star. No, he's got this presence and he's got the portfolio, right? He gets up on the Tony stage and he says, "Hey, I want a Tony. What did you do? Go get me a hot dog." You know, I mean, he's got some clout. And yet, I don't know if people really understand that about Beatty because he's done not just Broadway, he does, you know, all the TV he does. And check out, if you go to the Aldef site, aldef.org/blog, I do a whole podcast with him talking about White Rose, the character he played in that television show a while back. He got Emmy nominated. Um, but an interesting guy, BD Wong. I'm telling you, we need more. We need more of that. And if it weren't for BD Wong as a presenter, I don't know, Asian Americans would be relatively shut out of that show. That show last night that clamored for diversity, 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 diversity. And who's on the short end? Asian Americans. I'll tell you, that's why when I think of Asian Americans on Broadway, I don't think of South Pacific. And that's one of my points in my essay. I don't think of South. I think of BD Wong. BD Wong is no periods after the B or the D. He's just BD Wong. Heard a great joke by a friend of mine, Chris Turner, who's likes to play a kind of a white rapper, kind of an innocent white rapper. And he said he thought Dr. Dre was Dr. E. Let that sink in a little bit. Anyway, so BD Wong, no periods. It's just B and D and then Wong. He's Broadway he's modern Broadway to me, not South Pacific. Now, here's my opening. I read the opening graph, right? It says here, if Ensign Nellie Forbush, USN, is the cockeyed optimist, make me the modern Asian American pessimist. Though South Pacific has been hailed ever since it came on the scene in 1949. Hey, that's older than me. 1949, as Rogers and Hammerstein's antidote to bigotry, I remain unmoved. It was neither an antidote to anything of the sort. Rather, it was an enabler that flashed its own toned-down bigotry for a mostly white, privileged audience of its day. And the audience got just what it wanted, toothsome tunes to forget their troubles while sipping a Mai Tai fantasy. You know, sometimes you write something and you put it away and you bring it back again and you read it. It's like, God, I was real smart then. I don't feel that smart today, but boy, when I wrote that, man, what a good essay. Anyway, and I talk about that piece because there have been other, look, within the last year, there have been revivals. I think they're still thinking about reviving South Pacific somewhere, legit, on the big commercial stage. But there was a like a high school production in New Jersey, and they shut it down. Protesters shut it down. They said, and critics came to the play's defense, saying, "Hey, you woke folks, you know this is the nuance of the art. It's not about political correctness." And I take it on. If you think the song with the lyrics "You have to be carefully taught" shows that you're not born a racist, that you are taught to be a racist, and that song should excuse the play for being racist or being kind of like passive aggressively racist. I just say, look, the storylines in the movie are kind of racist and teaches you that this is the way it is. It doesn't teach you that, oh, you should go with the ideal of the song. It says, this is the way it goes. This is what happens to the winners. The people who are good die and the racism prevails. Ha ha ha. Anyway, you got to read my essay. Get the book, Bigotry on Broadway. It launches on Wednesday. Go to the ALDEF site, aaldef.org/blog, and sign up to see the discussion. Here's the thing also about the Tonys. They want diversity so bad. I mean, every single message, at every turn, there was like diversity, diversity. Here are the blacks, here are the whites together. They're in duets. Josh Groban, oh, and Leslie Odom, oh, they were classmates. Oh, integration at Carnegie Mellon. Well, how wonderful. And then, then they showed the Latinx guy, Matthew Lopez, and he's gay, and he's saying, "Hey, LGBTQ shout out, great." I mean, I just didn't see it for the Asians, except for when BD showed up, and that was enough. That should have been enough, but I bet you no one really knows just how great BD was. Hey, we're down again. I'm telling you, this is a mark of a great show when we keep getting interrupted by the internet. We keep getting interrupted by the internet. Anyway, so I just want you to know that things are cyclical, right? I mean, because there was a time when the blacks there were so many black playwrights and black voices. The Times had a story yesterday about new black writers, new stories. This is what I think is the reality. And I say this as a writer who not only writes these journalistic things, these columns that appear in places like the ALDEF blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund.org blog, and ethnic newspapers and other publications around the country. I say this also as a performer. I say this also as someone who, talks to people live when I can, when I feel comfortable about the COVID pandemic situation. But I think we are at a stage where we just have to tell our stories. We don't have to tell them on Broadway. It would be good to tell them on Broadway, but we just have to get them out. We just have to get them out because people will find our stories and people will find us. If we wait for Broadway to come to us, if we wait for it to be bankrolled by the corporations that fund Broadway, we might be waiting a long time. I mean, as I speak, I know some people in the community who are funding movies about the 1920s being Filipino in the 1920s and 30s. There's people writing staging musicals about Larry Itliong coming up. I just saw that on Facebook the other day. And if they contact me, I talk about them or talk about it with them. I mean, there are stories being talked about and mentioned. I mention stories all the time in my columns. Got to tell our stories wherever. They don't have to be on Broadway. I mean, I mentioned this because with Ishmael Reed, who put together this anthology, he was inspired because he saw Hamilton and he knew that there was something untruthful about Hamilton. He knew that Hamilton was a slaveholder, was married into a slaveholder family, the Schuyler's in New York. And they were knee deep in it. And yet there are people, hip hoppers and, people of color who say, hey, Hamilton, what a cool guy. It's almost as if the musical has absolved Hamilton, which it hasn't. But people think, oh, Hamilton, he's cool. Yeah. Well, no. Truth counts for something. So Ishmael Reed wrote The Haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is a play that appeared off Broadway at the New Eurekan Cafe in New York last year. Look up a review in The Nation. I've got a copy of the play. I didn't see the play, but because it was only in New York, I don't think it was videoed, or at least I didn't have access to the video, but I did buy the book, the script, the points are there. It's an excellent play. It probably still, I'd like to see it again. I'd like to see it for the first time. But the point is, the story's told, and maybe we'll forever be on the fringe. Maybe we'll forever be on the outside. But Ishmael's thing is he wants to keep pushing until the mainstream acknowledges our presence, and not just our truth, but the truth about Hamilton, about our stories as told by us. As told by us. So, anyway, I'll tell you one thing I did learn about South Pacific from watching the play, and I saw little kinescope bits of the play with Mary Martin. I saw, of course, the movie. Next best thing to seeing something live. The movie version is kind of hypnotic with all these colors. But the music is interesting. The toothsome tunes is what I call them. That's what you're left with. Ultimately, if that's all we're left with, and then the racism fades, I don't know. Does that forgive Rodgers and Hammerstein? I don't know. I just think that there are people who look to songs like "You've Got to Be Carefully Taught," aka "Carefully Taught," and they'll say, "Hey, look, there it was. There was their prescription. There was their warning about racism." Well, we could have had a happier ending for the people who wanted their mixed race marriage. So South Pacific, we talked about that. What else? Bigotry on Broadway, the Tonys. I talked about the Harvard Unity Weekend. I'm going to talk about it more because the main thing about the Harvard Unity Weekend that I find important to share is that we were all working together. We're all there. What's funny, I mean, the blacks, the Latinos, the Asian American group, the Native American group. And of all the groups, I found the Native American group kind of fascinating because I knew something about the African American group, something about certainly the Asian Americans, something about the Latinos. I knew nothing about the Native Americans, and everything I found out about them was fascinating. I mean, there was this one guy who went to Harvard Law, and he built a city within the reservation that said we're going to be different from others. He built it in Nebraska, and name escapes me. The Ho Chung Reservation, the Ho Chung Village, I believe it's called, in Nebraska. Man, it's just to hear him talk about how a community that has been forgotten, how it lifts itself up and starts building homes and starts building vertically so it helps itself. It builds a bank so it can finance things. It builds, and they take care of each other. It was fascinating. And it shows how there are models out there for every community to share with each other in terms of, I don't want to borrow the Biden term, but building back better makes sense. Building back better, helping each other, modeling after each other makes sense. All right, so a little bit of Harvard Unity. Sports. Monday, you got to talk sports. And I know sometimes it only helps if your team wins. Okay, so if you're in the New York area, you want to see the Giants win. Okay, they came close, 17-14. But at least an Asian American kid out of Ridgewood who went to Ridgewood High, Young Ho Koo, kicked the winning field goal, 17-14. Young Ho Koo. Congratulations to Young Ho. He made all the Koreans in New Jersey happy. And except the real diehard Giants fans. And of course, if everyone is a Jets fan, then no one cares, except that you're Asian American and you got in a football game and you got to kick the winning field. It was a good weekend for winning field goals. Justin Turner kicks on like 66 yards or something. I mean, my goodness. And it like hits the crossbar and gets a good bounce. It's like when you hit the front rim of a basket and it falls in instead of like clink, it like dunks up and then lands. Good day for kickers. And then, you know, I suppose it is the mark of how you manage the game and you get it down to like no time. You kick the winning field goal with no time left. That's the model. If you're not going to win by a blowout, if you're not going to win in a real convincing manner, that's how you win it. You hold the ball with like 2 seconds left. You kick a field goal, the winning margin, no time left. You walk off the field and talk to the sideline reporter. If you saw the San Francisco 49ers play the Green Bay Packers, my goodness, the 49ers held the ball. I like I said, it just keeps doing it because it is the digital divide in action. I paid my bill though, honest to God. So why tempt fate? I'm going to say goodbye. I want to say thank you for joining me for show 145 of Emil Muck's Takeout, subtitled "What Does an Asian American Think?" Tomorrow we'll go over that New York Times thing about what do Asian Americans think, or what do Asian Americans feel about what it's like to be Asian American right now in 2021. I think it's sort of like my experience with my live stream today. I mean, we cut in, cut out, cut in, cut out. Let me just finish off that story about the 49ers, though, because that crushed me a little bit because you give Aaron Rodgers the ball with the Packers, 37 seconds left. He just has to go down like 35 yards. He does so. They kick a field goal. They win. No time left. I just don't like winning like that in football. I would rather like you go in, you kill the crap out of the other team, you just blow them out. That's what it's got to be. Not, you hold the ball to the final seconds and you anyway, week 3 NFL. I pay attention. I pay attention. Although, if you're a baseball fan, the Giants are the San Francisco Giants, a better bet. They're neck and neck with the Dodgers. I don't know. The Dodgers they may have more horsepower, but the Giants, they're doing it. Bad news when Brandon Belt hurts his thumb and may be out. But, and because this is sports, Brandon Belt hurts his thumb. If he goes in and plays again, guess where the pitchers are going to be throwing the ball? At his thumb. Is that fair? Okay. I think that's it. If you've hung out with me this long, you know that we end with a little, our lanyap, our tail end lanyap, our little something extra is just the attaboy, attagirl, attaperson. Thank you for joining me this long. Thank you for being with me, letting me talk with you and have this. It's kind of a conversation. I mean, if you put something in chat, it would be kind of a conversation. But I thank you. I thank you for being here. I thank you for your patience with my internet. But I hope that you got something from the talk. I picked up a really interesting meditative technique. Supposedly, this is the Dalai Lama. He said, breathe in all the bad stuff, take in all the bad stuff, the hate, take in all the bad stuff that you sense in in the in breath. And then with the out breath, shoot it all out. Shoot it all out. Wish the folks who you've taken this bad stuff from, wish them well. Wish them loving kindness. The Dalai Lama says this. It's supposed to work. What's that again yet? Breathe in all the bad stuff that you're taking in from all the people who, you hate, you got a beef with. Hold it for a second or two and then release it. Release it out. Breath of fresh air. And wish them that sense of loving kindness that will move you to the road of forgiveness and understanding and not keep you suffering from their actions, but take you on a higher plane. I don't know, I had something on my ear listening to some audio thing, and I was asleep and I wake up and I hear that meditative technique expressed, and I think, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time, may you live in safety. May you live in health. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. Till next time, Mahal Gita.